Okay, so you can see here, this is that green treated wood I'm talking about. Because if you lay untreated wood on top of these, you know, concrete absorbs moisture and that'll rot your wood. So by having this green treated wood here, that gives us a buffer between the concrete. So that's why we have these on here. So you can see we're perfectly level here. And this is what I mean. This is just, we have another row of boards to put on here, but see how these seams are, where they're scabbed together, they land right in the middle of the pad. So that's what I was going for. Just like so. We do have to adjust this a little bit and push it that way, but you get the idea. All right, here's a look at beam number 1. So it's perfectly level, nice and straight, centered on each pad. All the seams line up. So this one turned out good. So how we do it is we have this upright when we start, and I just kind of tack it in with a few nails just to keep everything flush, and then we flip it down flat like this because it's much easier to nail. And we're nailing on through both sides. And these are 16 penny, 3.5 inch long. And as we're nailing these, we're doing it in a W pattern like this. So I'm told that that's stronger.
I don't know how you're going to fix this one. Because this one's doing the same thing. Huh? This side's pretty good though, because this is the side we're flipping out. This is good. It's alright to me. I'm going to finish my 3 nails.
What do you think, Ziggy? Is this fun? You guys are sticking around pretty good. Oh, this one's got a bow in it, huh? You want to throw it in the middle here? Sucker in pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Feels good.
Dude.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we had one bad one. Well, you gotta get it up there though. What?
We have a pretty ugly board here that's just got a lot of bows in it here, this outside one. So I'm putting a few extra nails in it and just going along, and my dad's lifting up on it or pushing down, whatever he's got to do. And that way we end up with a flush top here. Ready? If you wanted to make this stronger or better, you could use wood glue, you know, or adhesive in between these, but we don't skip on the fasteners, so not needed for us. And people were building homes long before wood glue. All right, so we got all 3 beams done here. We're getting ready to start on the floor joists once we get our beams all plumbed up, which I'll show you some of that in a minute here. But people were asking about these pads and frost heaving and stuff like that, and they will heave, but you're talking about tiny, tiny amounts. And by not, these won't be secured to the pad. These are going to be free floating, and then we'll nail our rim joist and floor joist all into this. But by not nailing it into these, when these heave, that doesn't put any unwanted force on the cabin at all. So by not mounting them down, because if you had this mounted, if they were secured to all these pads, this would be keeping it here while let's say this pad heaved. This would be staying here while it's trying to lift up, so it's putting shear pressure on this, which can cause windows to stick and doors to stick and stuff like that. I've heard some cases of people saying windows break. I don't know if that's true or not, but by having it just free floating on here, that keeps the cabin will move with it, but you won't ever notice it. It's not like you see it unless you got out a tape measure or something. You're talking tiny, tiny amounts. But after 5 to 10 freeze and thaw seasons, we might have to adjust these. We probably will at some point, and that's why when I made the pad video here, I talked about how easy these are to adjust. So if we got to jack this up, shimmy these around a little bit, do whatever we got to do to get this back situated, it'll be a piece of cake. When I lived in Fairbanks, Alaska, they have permafrost up there, so you always build on top of the ground because the ground's kind of always doing this and that and moving. Hey, Ziggy. So you see a lot of different methods, but my first cabin that I had was 18 by 28, the one I rented when I first got there, and that just sat on railroad tie pads. And that, like I said, of course the ground was heaving, but I never noticed it in my cabin. So it's little amounts, but over time it can become a problem if you don't adjust it and watch it, right? So my grandpa has a cabin that he built over 40 years ago. That's probably about a 45-minute drive from here. So the same area, same soil, all that, same climate. And that's just been sitting on just railroad tie chunks in each corner. It's a 16 by 24 cabin. And that thing, it's been sitting in that spot for 20 some years, and the thing is still level. You can't even tell that it's ever moved or anything. I'm not too worried about this. Like I said, it's easy to make adjustments if and when we need to, which we will have to at some point, but it won't be a big deal when we do. So when you buy dimensional lumber in the store, we have 16-foot boards here, and they're actually 16 foot by 1 inch. That's why they kind of look funny here and don't line up at the end. But I'm going to put a mark at 32 feet on all 3 beams, and then use the chainsaw to cut them all flush. So we're starting on the rim joist now here. All 3 of our beams are in place, and they are square. So we have the same measurement diagonal here from this corner to that far corner, and the same measurement from there to there. So both those are the exact same measurements, so we know that we have a perfect rectangle right now. For our rim joists, they're going to rest right on this outside board of the beam, and then our floor joists will rest on these 2. But we're going to start by toe nailing our rim joists in the full 32 feet on both runs, and then we'll put the start going with the floor joist here. So you can see our rim joist here is all secured to the beam. We just have it tacked on here, but I'm going to go along now and nail it every foot or so with 16 penny nails, toenail down into the beam. Pretty sure what to do with this. And then of course, until we get this thing built, we're camping. Here's my dad's room. All right, so you can see we're laying out the floor joist here. We have this side done. Well, they're just nailed into the rim joist here. But we're laying out the other side. So now that you can see it, it'll make more sense. They overlap here on the middle. And then they're gonna be nailed together, of course, and then nailed down into these beams. And then we'll put our blocking in to keep them from twisting. All right, here's what our floor looks like so far. All the floor joists are nailed into the rim joists. And then where they overlap here, we have these all nailed together. So now we'll start in our blocking in between each floor joist to keep it from twisting. All right, here's the completed floor joist. We got our blocks going down the middle, keep these from twisting and rolling, keep our spaces even. And now we got to put down the Reflectix insulation, and then it's time for subfloor. And then we'll have our floor built. So the rim joist is toe-nailed really well into the beams. All the floor joists are toe-nailed, both sides on the beams. So we did not skimp out on the fasteners. And we got a good, solid, level, square floor. Some people were asking why we're a little bit higher off the ground here. And there's a lot of advantages to that, but mainly we can store things under here. If we ever have a problem with anything, you know, like when it comes to adjusting these pads or whatever, I can crawl underneath here just fine. There's plenty of room. And you just have a lot more things you can do in the future doing it this way. If you ever got to run a wire, plumbing, anything like that. But mainly, there's just a lot of storage room under here now, so that's why we did that. And when I'm sitting at the front of the cabin here, and we will have a porch that we'll add on here once we get this all dried in. Can you hold on?
I would say just come up this side.
Yeah, I hardly tack this stuff because, like I said, the plywood, you're gonna have every nail going through it anyway, so just so it doesn't come off in the wind right now.
If we go the other way though, or you'll.
I went by square footage when I got it, so it's
5 times 8, that's 40. How much is left in there?
This one? This is a 25-foot roll by 4. Still have 5 foot left over. Kind of sucks that it's gonna have to be taped like this, you know? The Reflectix insulation is all tacked on and the seams are all taped. This is a Reflectix tape that goes with it that, you know, you're supposed to tape every seam, of course, so. Turned out good, the floor is insulated, and we're gonna start throwing some sheeting on here now. What's for breakfast today?
Well, we've got bacon and some sausage, and then a skillet scramble. Got ham, mushrooms, onions, cheese in there when I'm done.
Looks hearty. Perfect. So we've started sheeting. This whole first run here was full 8-foot sheets. And then we cut, for the next run, cut that one in half at 4 feet. And now we're gonna continue with 8-footers, and that way, now when we lay our 8-footer down, this seam ends up middle of that piece of plywood. That way all your seams don't line up all the way down, because it's not as strong. The sheeting's going on really good. And that's what we want to see right there. How you boys like the deck? So all you're doing up until you get to this point, you're just trying to get a level platform that is square. So same diagonal measurement from that corner to that corner, that to that corner should be the same measurement. And as long as you're level, that's the goal. So once you have this built, this is a good feeling because you know that you're starting on a perfectly level and square platform, which means the rest of the house is going to be square and level. So far, all the tools that I've used are right here. So you can accomplish this with next to no money invested in tools. You know, I mean, if you don't want to truck out the money for, you know, to get all new, you know, table saws and stuff like that, just to show you, this is as simple as it gets here. You know, we got our string line, level, saw, tape measure, a square, and a hammer. We're hand driving all the nails on this place, so anybody can do this with basic tools. And if you didn't want to get a skill saw, you can do it with a hand saw, of course. It's going to take you a little bit longer, but that's doable as well. So you don't need to have all the top-notch, you know, tools to accomplish this. So anybody can do this, whether you have carpentry background or not. Like I said, it's just if you can read a tape measure, you know how to read a level, it's about all you need to know. And the most important measurement, like I said, on this up until this point is your diagonal measurement. That way you know you're square. So anybody can do this stuff. Here's what underneath the cabin looks like. You can see all the beams are resting perfectly on those pads. And we're level, square. All of our joists are 16 inches on center. Things are looking good up until this point. I'm excited to start on the walls. Well, I just about got the floor all nailed off here. Well, actually, I'm about half done only. So it's a lot of nails. I think it's like 82 nails per full sheet of plywood you're supposed to have or something like that. So it's a lot to hand nail, but it's doable. And as you can see here, we got ourselves a nice, solid, level floor. That's a good feeling, man. You know, with the price of lumber, we're starting to get some money invested in this. So I'm glad everything's going well. And I will have all my receipts, and I'll show you guys how much this entire building costs, you know, at least to get the shell up, you know, get the metal roof on and everything to get to that point. Then the inside, everybody's going to have their own ideas on what they want to spend in there. But I'll show all the receipts and add everything up. I've kept every receipt, so I'll be able to show you guys how much it costs and everything, which it's been a lot. But of course, with the price of lumber, we knew that. But yeah, and then at the end of this, you know, this will be a multi-part series. And then at the end, I'll take all the parts and put them all in one long video. That way, you'll be able to watch the whole thing from start to finish instead of just parts. So that's what I'll have in the future for you guys. All right, guys, it's all nailed off. Sierra and I are going to go float the canoe on the lake, and I will have the wall video for you guys next. Thanks for watching.